Have you ever wondered why some of the greatest battles in your life seemed to begin the very moment you decided to walk in truth? Why certain people underestimated you, dismissed you, or even challenged you without knowing who you truly were? It is a curious law of both the visible and invisible worlds that true authority rarely announces itself. It remains hidden until it is questioned. Gold is not recognized by the darkness surrounding it, but by the fire that refuses to consume it. There is a profound difference between appearance and identity. The world measures by status, wealth, influence, and outward strength, yet heaven has always measured by something far deeper. Those who carry a divine calling often look ordinary until the moment they are tested. Only then does their spiritual rank become unmistakable. The opposition they face is not always a sign of weakness. More often, it is evidence that unseen forces have recognized what people have failed to see. Perhaps you have mistaken every attack as proof that you are losing, when in reality each challenge has been revealing a level of authority that neither you nor your enemies fully understood. They believed they were confronting an ordinary person, but every attempt to break you became another witness to the strength that had been quietly growing within you. What they intended as your downfall became the very evidence of your divine appointment. If you'd like, I can also make it sound even closer to the reflective, philosophical cadence often associated with C.S. Lewis, while keeping it original and avoiding imitation of his distinctive phrasing. There is an ancient habit of mankind that has remained unchanged through every generation. We are endlessly tempted to believe that what can be seen is the whole truth. We look upon a face, a manner of speech, a station in life, or a measure of earthly success, and we imagine that we have arrived at a sound judgment. Yet the visible world has always been the least reliable witness concerning the deepest realities. What appears ordinary to human eyes may be carrying an extraordinary purpose concealed beneath the surface. It is not because heaven delights in confusion, but because the highest things are rarely advertised. They are planted quietly, growing beneath the soil, long before anyone notices the first green shoot breaking through the ground. This is one of the great misunderstandings surrounding those who carry a divine calling. They are seldom recognized at first glance. They do not always possess the appearance that the world has learned to admire. They may walk into a room unnoticed, speak with humility rather than pride, and live without demanding attention. Those who measure greatness by outward display naturally conclude that such a person possesses little influence. Yet spiritual authority has never depended upon noise. Indeed, it often flourishes most powerfully where self-promotion is absent. The tragedy is that many people mistake humility for weakness. They assume gentleness is a lack of courage, patience is indecision, and silence is ignorance. Such conclusions reveal more about the observer than about the one being observed. For there exists a strength that has no need to announce itself. The mountain does not boast of its height, nor does the ocean proclaim its depth. Their greatness is simply present, whether recognized or ignored. So it is with those whom God prepares for purposes beyond ordinary understanding. Their authority is not manufactured through applause. It is bestowed from a higher source. One begins to notice a curious pattern throughout life. Those carrying the greatest responsibilities often endure the greatest misunderstandings. They are underestimated precisely because their true identity cannot be measured by ordinary standards. The eye trained only upon appearances cannot perceive what has been fashioned in secret through prayer, suffering, discipline, and quiet obedience. Such things leave no visible medals for the world to admire. They shape the soul rather than the reputation. There is also something profoundly revealing about the behavior of those who rely entirely upon outward appearances. They become remarkably confident in their judgments. Believing they have understood everything worth knowing, they speak carelessly, dismiss quickly, and challenge boldly. They imagine they are dealing with an ordinary individual because they have mistaken simplicity for insignificance. Yet hidden realities possess an unexpected habit of revealing themselves at precisely the moment confidence becomes arrogance. It is worth remembering that many of life's greatest reversals begin with someone making the fatal mistake of underestimating another person. Not because the underestimated individual suddenly acquires new strength, but because the strength was present all along, quietly restrained until circumstances demanded its appearance. There is a dignity in power that does not rush to prove itself. Only insecurity constantly demands recognition. True authority remains content to wait until action becomes necessary. This hidden quality often explains why certain people face unusual opposition without understanding the reason. Their critics believe they are merely confronting another ordinary individual. They do not realize they are resisting someone whose life has been shaped by purposes extending beyond immediate appearances. What they perceive as weakness is often restraint. What they interpret as delay is preparation. What they dismiss as obscurity is frequently protection. The chosen soul frequently experiences seasons in which almost no one understands what God is accomplishing. Even those closest may see only ordinary circumstances, while entirely missing the invisible work taking place beneath them. Character is being strengthened where no audience exists. Wisdom is being cultivated through disappointments that seem meaningless. Faith is deepening in moments when visible evidence offers little encouragement. None of these treasures can be measured by the standards of public admiration, yet they become the very foundation upon which lasting authority rests. One may ask why heaven allows such misunderstanding to continue for so long. Perhaps because recognition received too early often damages the very character required to sustain genuine influence. The tree that grows too quickly seldom develops roots capable of surviving the storm. In much the same way, souls entrusted with lasting assignments are often hidden until inward strength has exceeded outward expectation. The concealment itself becomes part of the preparation. This is why outward rejection should never become the measure of inward worth. Human opinion shifts with remarkable speed, praising one day and condemning the next. Divine purpose, however, is neither increased by applause nor diminished by criticism. It proceeds quietly through both acceptance and rejection with equal determination. The chosen person gradually learns to seek approval from a higher court than public opinion can ever provide. Those who judged only what their eyes could perceive often fail to recognize that spiritual authority cannot be borrowed from appearance. It is forged through surrender, refined through endurance, and strengthened through countless unseen moments when obedience was chosen over comfort. Such authority carries a quiet confidence because it rests upon something eternal rather than temporary. It does not depend upon impressive clothing, persuasive speech, influential connections, or visible accomplishments. It flows from a life shaped by unseen realities that remain hidden until the appointed moment reveals what had been there from the very beginning. There is a strange mystery in the lives of those who carry a hidden calling. The very attacks meant to diminish them often become the clearest evidence of who they truly are. Many people assume that opposition is proof that something is wrong. They believe that if a person were truly favored, chosen, or walking in divine purpose, the path would be smooth and the doors would open effortlessly. Yet history tells a different story. Again and again, the lives that changed the world were lives that first attracted resistance. The attack did not create your significance. It revealed it. Consider how little attention is given to what is considered unimportant. No one wages a serious battle against something they believe has no value. Thieves do not break into empty vaults. Armies do not surround abandoned fields. The intensity of the opposition often says more about the treasure being protected than about the weakness of the person being attacked. What looked like random conflict may have been a revelation that there was something within you worth resisting. Many chosen people spend years misunderstanding their own story. They see betrayal, criticism, rejection, and spiritual warfare and conclude that they must be failing. They ask why certain relationships became strangely hostile, why opportunities were contested, or why they felt pressure that others around them did not seem to experience. What they fail to recognize is that some battles begin long before the purpose is visible. The seed is opposed before the tree appears. The calling is challenged before the platform arrives. There is also a profound difference between being attacked because of foolishness and being attacked because of destiny. Foolishness creates chaos through avoidable choices. Destiny attracts resistance because it threatens darkness by carrying light. The two can feel similar on the surface, but their roots are entirely different. One destroys, the other reveals. One leads to emptiness. The other often leads to deeper clarity about who you are becoming. Think of the moments when people underestimated you, spoke against you, or tried to close doors that should have remained open. At the time, those experiences may have felt purely painful, yet many of them forced hidden strengths to emerge. You discovered endurance you did not know you possessed. You learned to pray with greater sincerity. You developed discernment. You became less dependent on human approval. What was meant to weaken you became a training ground that uncovered abilities and spiritual maturity that comfort alone could never have produced. Even your enemies sometimes become unwilling witnesses to your growth. They intended to expose weakness, but instead they exposed resilience. They expected you to collapse, but instead they watched you stand. They assumed the pressure would reveal emptiness, but the pressure revealed substance. A tree with shallow roots may look impressive on a calm day, but only the storm reveals whether it can remain standing. In the same way, attacks often uncover the depth of a person's foundation. One of the hardest truths to accept is that revelation frequently arrives through conflict rather than comfort. We would prefer our identity to be confirmed through applause, encouragement, and easy success. Yet some aspects of who we are become visible only when tested. Courage is invisible until fear appears. Faith is invisible until uncertainty arrives. Authority is invisible until it is challenged. Patience is invisible until provocation comes. The test does not manufacture these qualities, it uncovers them. For the chosen one, every attack carries a question. Will you forget who you are, or will the pressure reveal it more clearly? The enemy hopes that opposition will cause confusion, bitterness, or surrender. Heaven often uses the same moment to strengthen conviction, deepen character, and reveal spiritual rank. The attack becomes a mirror, showing both the attacker and the attacked that something greater is present than either fully understood. That is why some of the most painful seasons later become the most meaningful chapters of a person's story. Looking back, they realize that the rejection exposed their uniqueness, the betrayal exposed their loyalty, the criticism exposed their conviction, and the battle exposed their authority. What seemed like evidence of defeat was often the first unmistakable revelation that they were carrying a purpose significant enough to provoke resistance from the very beginning. There is a tendency within the human heart to believe that promotion should come before responsibility, that recognition should arrive before sacrifice, and that honor should be given before endurance has been proven. We naturally desire the crown before the trial, the celebration before the struggle, and the reward before the labor. Yet heaven appears to work according to an entirely different order. The pattern repeated throughout the spiritual life is not promotion followed by testing, but testing followed by promotion. The examination often arrives before the announcement, and the soul is measured long before it is publicly acknowledged. This order is not designed to frustrate those who are chosen. It is designed to prepare them. A position without character becomes a burden rather than a blessing. Influence without wisdom soon destroys both the leader and those who follow. Spiritual authority entrusted to an unprepared heart can become an instrument of pride instead of service. Therefore, what appears to be delay is often one of heaven's greatest acts of mercy. The waiting season is not empty. It is filled with quiet work that cannot be seen from the outside. Many people become discouraged because they assume that unanswered prayers or prolonged difficulties mean they have been forgotten. They compare themselves with others who seem to advance more quickly and conclude that something must be wrong. Yet comparisons rarely reveal the whole story. Every assignment requires a different preparation. The builder who intends to construct a cottage and the builder preparing a great cathedral cannot work according to the same timetable. The greater the responsibility, the deeper the foundation must become before anything visible is allowed to rise. The chosen one often experiences this hidden preparation in ways that appear confusing. Doors remain closed despite sincere effort. Recognition seems delayed despite faithful work. Opportunities disappear just when success appears close. These moments are easily mistaken for failure, yet they may actually be evidence that heaven is refusing to promote a person until their inner life can sustain what their outer life is about to receive. The delay protects the calling from being crushed beneath the weight of premature success. There is something remarkable about a test that arrives without explanation. It reveals motives that would otherwise remain concealed. When no applause is offered, obedience becomes genuine rather than performative. When no immediate reward appears, faith is purified from selfish ambition. When no audience is watching, integrity becomes a habit instead of a performance. These hidden victories shape the soul more profoundly than public achievements ever could. They form a character capable of carrying influence without becoming consumed by it. It is often in the ordinary moments that the greatest examinations occur. The test is not always dramatic or obvious. It may appear as the decision to forgive when resentment feels justified. It may come through remaining honest when dishonesty seems profitable. It may be found in serving faithfully while someone else receives the recognition. These quiet decisions seem insignificant to the world, yet they reveal whether the heart has become trustworthy. Heaven is rarely impressed by outward brilliance alone. It looks deeply into the motives from which every action proceeds. The remarkable truth is that many people never realize they are being tested until much later. They imagine they are simply enduring another difficult season, unaware that every response is quietly shaping their future. Every disappointment presents an opportunity to choose faith over despair. Every rejection offers the chance to anchor identity in something greater than human approval. Every obstacle becomes an invitation to develop perseverance rather than surrender. The examination continues even when the individual fails to recognize that it has begun. This explains why some of the greatest breakthroughs arrive unexpectedly. Others see only the sudden promotion, but they remain unaware of the years of hidden preparation that came before it. They celebrate the visible victory without understanding the invisible discipline that made it possible. They admire the confidence without witnessing the countless moments of doubt overcome through persistent faith. What appears sudden is often the visible result of a process that has been unfolding quietly for years beneath the surface. There is also a profound wisdom in allowing the test to come before the promotion, because success has a curious way of magnifying whatever already exists within a person. If humility is present, influence expands humility. If pride remains unchecked, influence enlarges pride as well. The heart does not become something entirely different after promotion. It simply reveals more clearly what it has already become. Heaven, knowing this truth perfectly, prepares the inner life before enlarging the outer assignment. Those who are chosen frequently misunderstand this season because they measure progress by visible advancement rather than invisible transformation. They long for open doors, while heaven is strengthening their ability to walk through them with wisdom. They pray for greater influence, while heaven is cultivating greater compassion. They seek higher positions, while heaven is teaching deeper dependence. None of these lessons appear impressive in the moment, yet together they become the very qualities that distinguish lasting authority from temporary success. The tests themselves often seem unrelated to the future calling. A season of loneliness teaches reliance upon God instead of constant human affirmation. Financial uncertainty develops trust beyond material security. Unfair criticism teaches gentleness under pressure. Delayed answers cultivate patience that cannot be learned through immediate gratification. Every experience contributes another layer of strength, shaping a soul capable of carrying responsibilities that would have overwhelmed an earlier version of itself. When the appointed time finally arrives, the promotion often appears almost effortless to those observing from a distance. They see the door opening, but remain blind to the years spent preparing to enter it. They witness the authority, but overlook the surrender that produced it. They admire the stability without understanding the storms that quietly strengthened its foundations. The promotion itself is never the beginning of the story. It is simply the moment when heaven reveals what the test had already proven in secret. One of the greatest misunderstandings in human nature is the belief that strength must always appear loud, forceful, and visibly aggressive. We have become accustomed to measuring power by raised voices, hurried reactions, and displays of dominance. Yet the deepest forms of strength often reveal themselves in precisely the opposite manner. There is a quiet confidence that belongs only to those who know where their foundation rests. Such people do not feel compelled to answer every accusation, react to every insult, or defend themselves against every misunderstanding. Their calmness is not the absence of conflict, but the presence of something greater than fear. The chosen one frequently confuses this calmness with weakness, especially during seasons of intense opposition. There are moments when remaining silent feels like surrender, when refusing to retaliate appears to invite further injustice. Yet spiritual maturity often consists not in doing everything one has the power to do, but in possessing the wisdom to know what should remain undone. Restraint is one of the least appreciated expressions of authority because it requires strength that has already mastered itself. It is remarkable how quickly the world becomes unsettled by someone who refuses to panic. Most people expect pressure to produce confusion. They assume criticism will provoke anger, rejection will create bitterness, and uncertainty will give birth to despair. When these expectations are not fulfilled, something unexpected occurs. The calm individual begins to reveal a source of stability that cannot easily be explained by ordinary circumstances. Others recognize, whether consciously or unconsciously, that they are witnessing a kind of peace not manufactured by favorable conditions. This calmness does not mean that the chosen one never experiences fear, disappointment, or grief. Such emotions belong to every human soul. The difference lies in what governs the heart when those emotions arise. One person allows fear to become the master of every decision, while another acknowledges fear without surrendering authority to it. Outwardly, both may face the same storm. Inwardly, however, they are standing upon entirely different foundations. One is carried by circumstances, the other is anchored beneath them. There is a hidden discipline behind this kind of composure. It is not developed overnight, nor is it inherited by chance. It grows slowly through repeated acts of trust. Every unanswered prayer that still receives faithful obedience adds another layer of strength. Every disappointment that fails to destroy hope deepens the soul's stability. Every season of waiting teaches the heart to rest in promises that cannot yet be seen. These quiet victories rarely attract attention, yet they become the invisible pillars supporting remarkable endurance. Many people imagine that spiritual authority is demonstrated through extraordinary miracles or dramatic public moments. While such events may indeed occur, authority often reveals itself far more subtly. It becomes visible when a person remains kind after being treated unfairly. It appears when forgiveness replaces resentment despite genuine injury. It is seen when wisdom answers foolishness without becoming foolish itself. Such responses cannot be produced by mere personality. They arise from a heart that has learned to draw strength from a source beyond itself. There is also something deeply unsettling about calmness in the presence of hostility. Those who seek to provoke others often depend upon emotional reactions to achieve their purpose. Anger feeds their confidence, fear strengthens their influence, confusion gives them control. When none of these responses appear, their certainty begins to weaken. They expected to encounter panic but instead met peace. They anticipated retaliation but discovered restraint. They prepared for chaos yet found quiet confidence. Without realizing it, they become witnesses to a power they cannot fully understand. The storms of life possess a remarkable quality. They reveal not only the strength of the winds, but also the depth of the roots. During peaceful seasons, nearly every tree appears healthy. Only when violent weather arrives does the hidden condition beneath the surface become visible. The same principle governs the human soul. Trials uncover what comfort conceals. Pressure exposes whether faith was merely spoken or genuinely possessed. Calmness during conflict is rarely accidental. It is the outward expression of years spent cultivating an inward life that remains connected to something eternal. The chosen one often underestimates the influence of this quiet stability. Without speaking many words, such a life becomes a testimony to everyone watching. Family members notice the absence of panic. Friends observe unexpected patience. Even critics struggle to explain why repeated attacks have failed to produce collapse. They may not immediately acknowledge the source of such composure, yet they cannot ignore its existence. The calmness itself begins to communicate truths that arguments could never persuade them to believe. There comes a moment in many spiritual battles when the greatest victory is not found in defeating an opponent, but in refusing to become like them. Anger invites anger, bitterness multiplies bitterness, and pride answers pride. Yet peace interrupts that pattern. Humility disarms it. Self-control breaks the cycle that conflict seeks to perpetuate. Such responses require a strength far greater than impulsive retaliation because they demonstrate mastery over the heart before attempting to influence the world outside it. What many fail to understand is that this peaceful confidence is not natural to fallen human nature. It is cultivated through surrender, strengthened through trust, and refined through repeated seasons in which circumstances offered every reason to despair while faith quietly chose to remain. The battle itself becomes the place where hidden power is displayed, not because the chosen one possesses extraordinary ability, but because the calm carried into the conflict reveals that their confidence rests upon an authority greater than the storm surrounding them. There is a peculiar irony woven into the fabric of many lives marked by a divine calling. Those who set out with the intention of discouraging, humiliating, or defeating the chosen one often become the very people who unknowingly confirm the reality of that person's purpose. They imagine they are exposing weakness, yet their actions end up revealing hidden strength. What they hoped would erase a calling instead draws greater attention to it. This is one of those mysteries that cannot be understood merely by observing outward events, for the deeper meaning lies beneath the surface where unseen purposes quietly unfold. Human beings often assume that opposition has the final word. We imagine that criticism defines character, Rejection determines value, and failure settles identity. Yet these assumptions rest upon a very limited understanding of how truth reveals itself. A diamond does not cease to be precious because someone mistakes it for an ordinary stone. The opinion of the observer never changes the nature of the object being observed. In much the same way, a calling bestowed by heaven is not cancelled by disbelief, ridicule, or resistance. It remains what it is even while others refuse to recognize it. Many people who oppose those with a divine assignment believe they are acting from wisdom. They trust their own judgment, convinced they have correctly measured the person standing before them. They see only present circumstances, current limitations, or visible imperfections. Since they cannot perceive what God is shaping in secret, they conclude there is nothing extraordinary to expect. Their confidence grows from incomplete knowledge, and it is precisely this confidence that often leads them into actions that unintentionally fulfill a greater purpose. It is remarkable how frequently resistance becomes the very stage upon which hidden character is displayed. A person may never fully recognize their own endurance until another attempts to break it. Compassion is often discovered in moments when cruelty would have been easier. Integrity becomes unmistakable when compromise promises immediate reward. Faith shines most clearly when doubt surrounds every visible circumstance. Without intending to do so, opponents create situations in which these qualities emerge into the light for everyone to witness. There is also something deeply revealing about the motives hidden within the heart. When people attempt to destroy another through jealousy, pride, or bitterness, they often imagine they are exposing flaws in someone else. Yet over time, their actions begin to reveal far more about their own character than about the person they oppose. Meanwhile, the chosen one is presented with repeated opportunities to respond differently. Every unjust accusation becomes an invitation to remain truthful. Every act of betrayal becomes an opportunity to choose forgiveness instead of revenge. Every insult becomes another occasion to guard the heart from becoming hardened by resentment. This pattern explains why many of the greatest testimonies begin with seasons of misunderstanding. The critics speak with certainty, believing history will prove them correct. They gather others to support their conclusions, convinced they have seen the whole picture. Yet truth possesses remarkable patience. It does not rush to defend itself because it knows that time has a way of uncovering what appearances conceal. Eventually, circumstances begin revealing what neither argument nor explanation could have accomplished. Character becomes visible. Consistency speaks louder than accusations. Faithfulness quietly outlives criticism. One of the greatest mistakes people make is assuming that obstacles always prevent purpose. In reality, many obstacles refine purpose. Pressure separates what is genuine from what is superficial. Those who intended to discourage perseverance instead reveal how deeply rooted that perseverance has become. Their repeated attempts to produce surrender only expose the strength that had remained hidden beneath ordinary circumstances. The chosen one discovers reserves of courage, wisdom, and dependence upon God that might otherwise have remained unnoticed. There is a quiet dignity in allowing one's life to become the answer rather than relying upon endless self-defense. Not every accusation requires a response. Not every misunderstanding demands immediate correction. Sometimes the strongest reply is continued faithfulness. While others speak, the chosen one continues serving. While others criticize, the chosen one continues growing. While others predict failure, the chosen one quietly walks the path prepared by God. Over time, this steady consistency becomes impossible to ignore. Even those who once doubted may eventually recognize something they failed to see before. They remember the predictions they made, the confidence with which they dismissed the calling, and the certainty that nothing significant would come from such an ordinary person. Yet the evidence before them becomes increasingly difficult to deny. The strength displayed under pressure, the wisdom shown through trials, the peace maintained during conflict, and the faithfulness sustained over long seasons all begin telling a story greater than human opinion ever could. There is profound wisdom in remembering that a calling does not require universal approval to remain genuine. Many of the greatest purposes unfold while surrounded by misunderstanding. The chosen one is not established by the applause of people, but by the faithfulness of God. Those who attempted to silence that purpose often discover, without intending it, that every challenge they created became another opportunity for hidden gifts to emerge, another occasion for steadfast character to become visible, and another witness that the assignment resting upon that life was stronger than the resistance raised against it. Their opposition, rather than erasing the calling, gradually became one more testimony that there was something within the chosen one worth opposing from the very beginning. There is a common misunderstanding about the purpose of life's greatest trials. Many people believe that every difficult season arrives with the intention of defeating them. They assume that hardship is evidence they have wandered away from their purpose, that resistance means they have been abandoned, or that suffering is the final chapter of their story. Yet the deeper pattern of the spiritual life suggests something altogether different. The greatest tests are often not designed to destroy the chosen one, but to uncover an identity that could never have been fully revealed in comfort alone. The fire does not invent the nature of gold, it simply removes what concealed it. It is remarkable how easily a person can forget who they are when life proceeds without interruption. Comfort has a subtle way of convincing the soul that growth is no longer necessary. Ease rarely demands deeper faith, greater patience, or stronger character. It allows hidden weaknesses to remain unnoticed because nothing has yet required them to be confronted. A test, however, interrupts this illusion. It places the heart in circumstances where every false confidence begins to crumble until only what is genuine remains standing. The chosen one often enters such seasons believing that everything is falling apart. Familiar routines disappear, trusted relationships change, unexpected disappointments arise, and carefully formed plans collapse without warning. These events seem random when viewed only through human understanding. Yet beneath the visible confusion, another process is quietly unfolding. Layers of identity built upon temporary things begin to fall away. Confidence rooted in reputation, achievement, approval, or personal ability gradually gives way to something far more enduring. The soul learns to stand upon a foundation that circumstances cannot remove. There is a profound difference between knowing certain truths with the mind and discovering them through experience. One may speak confidently about faith while life is peaceful, yet genuine trust becomes visible only when certainty has vanished from every outward circumstance. Patience sounds admirable until delay stretches far beyond expectation. Forgiveness appears simple until genuine betrayal demands it. Courage seems noble until fear becomes unavoidable. The test transforms abstract ideas into living realities. It teaches lessons that no amount of instruction alone could ever accomplish. Many people spend years asking why they have endured struggles unlike those faced by others. They compare journeys and conclude that their path has been unusually difficult. What they fail to consider is that preparation always corresponds to purpose. The greater the responsibility entrusted to a life, the greater the formation required beforehand. A bridge intended to carry immense weight cannot be built upon shallow foundations. In the same way, a soul prepared for lasting influence often experiences deeper refinement than one called to lighter responsibilities. The process may appear severe, but its severity reflects the significance of what is being prepared. One of the most beautiful truths hidden within every trial is that it reveals strengths previously unknown, even to the person experiencing them. Before the battle begins, courage often remains invisible. Before rejection comes, resilience lies dormant. Before disappointment arrives, perseverance has not yet awakened. These qualities already exist as possibilities planted within the soul, but they remain concealed until circumstances call them into action. The test becomes the instrument through which hidden capacities emerge into full expression. There is also something deeply humbling about discovering that true identity is not formed by success alone. Success often attracts admiration, but difficulty exposes authenticity. Anyone can appear confident while every plan succeeds. Anyone can seem patient when nothing interrupts their desires. Yet when life refuses to follow expected patterns, the heart begins revealing what has quietly shaped it all along. The chosen one gradually realizes that identity cannot be sustained by changing circumstances, because it has been rooted in something eternal rather than temporary. Many of the people observing your life may misunderstand what they are witnessing. They see the struggle but fail to recognize the transformation occurring within it. They notice the battle without perceiving the strengthening that accompanies it. From the outside, everything appears uncertain. From heaven's perspective, every challenge is shaping a person capable of carrying greater wisdom, compassion, humility, and authority. The process remains largely invisible until the appointed time when its results become unmistakable. The remarkable truth is that some of the greatest discoveries about yourself will never occur during seasons of uninterrupted peace. They emerge when every familiar support has disappeared leaving only your dependence upon God. In those moments, you begin realizing that your peace was never produced by favorable circumstances, your hope was never sustained by predictable outcomes, and your strength was never dependent upon your own abilities. What once seemed impossible becomes bearable, because another source of power quietly sustains you beneath every burden. The chosen one eventually comes to understand that every difficult season carried two voices. One voice insisted that the trial was proof of defeat, encouraging surrender, fear, and discouragement. The other quietly invited deeper trust, reminding the heart that identity could not be stolen by hardship, nor purpose cancelled by opposition. Every decision to remain faithful strengthened that second voice until it became more familiar than the first. The battle itself gradually revealed not merely what the chosen one could accomplish, but who the chosen one had been becoming through every unseen act of obedience, every quiet surrender, every faithful step taken despite uncertainty, and every moment when perseverance chose to rise above despair, making the test itself the very place where true identity was brought into the light.